This episode of Watch Out for Fireball's Dispatch is brought to you by our patrons. Go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You too can join them. Thank you. My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireball's Dispatch, the monthly Patreon show where we answer your questions, read your responses this month's games, announce what's happening next time, and then proceed to answer more questions. What?
Yeah.
What?
We have a lot of questions in the hopper here, and we kind of don't have a topic in us today. We're going to reveal that to you. So we're going to kill two birds.
Did fine.
Yeah, you guys did fine. It's entirely on us. Instead of doing an extended topic, we're going to answer more questions than usual.
Yeah, we're just going to keep doing questions until we can, until the feelings go away. Everybody did a good job at giving us interesting topics.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like an amount of brain power that neither of us have due to circumstances, motions to everything.
My upbringing, yeah.
Yeah, my upbringing mostly. Like, just how we're doing in the world. So don't worry about us. We're okay.
Yeah.
But not topic okay.
Yes.
What a true but embarrassing level of degree of sensitivity. Like, you ever just like wake up and you're just like, I'm a clown. Everyone on Earth is a clown, and this is all just fucking Clown Town, the Clown Planet. Like the planet is the ice cream cone clown, and should just be devoured by like a child Galactus.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, and I start describing things as like Clown Town and stuff, but then I remember that like. What is it? Online chuds. Well, yeah. I mean, what would clowns ever do? But online chuds have their whole honkler thing, where they're trying to turn. Yeah, look up Clown World in relation to like white supremacy and stuff. Geez. Yeah.
No.
So I tried to. I know, right? I know. We can't let them have it, right? I definitely agree that it's circus times. Just generally, like both on both the micro and macro level, but yeah, it's one of those things where if I can avoid it, I don't want to be mistaken for indulging in a trope that at least was in use by them, like a year ago.
Do you ever two comments? One, I am the great white supremacist Pagliacci. I don't know if that's something. But two, do you ever think that you and I think too much? Like that we get really wrapped around the axle around shit like that if we went and talked to 700 people in our town, all of them would think we were absolutely insane for caring about that.
Oh, yeah.
And that we live in this like fantasy world in which none of the things that we worry about are real.
Yeah. No, that's that's part of my meta upset. I am both upset about things and also upset about the things that I'm upset about.
Yeah.
No.
Just on top of it.
Just the many different ways that I fail myself, and and by extension others around me.
And the world fails you.
Yep.
And also none of it is actually a failure because you can go outside and like eat a pulled pork sandwich under a nice breeze.
Yeah.
And stuff. It is a complicated existence we got going on here.
Yeah.
And none of it is real and all of it's real, and I'm not high.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying stuff like that. There's a lot going on. Anywho, Mark Mahler says, the next Metal Slug game on just arguably lighter fare.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's very funny. Like, what's going on with Metal Slug? The next Metal Slug game was just revealed to be a turn-based tactics game, which might be cool, but also a little bit odd. If you had your druthers, which old IP would you like to see converted into a tactics-style game?
Oh, well, I mean, so we kind of inadvertently answered this on a recent Abject Suffering, but we proposed the idea of Castlevania, but in Divinity Original Sin 2. That like that engine. I would be down
That'd
for
be cool.
like Resident Evil or something like that in a turn-based, like XCOM, like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like doing that, like the weird subplots about like military super soldiers and stuff that just doesn't work when you're playing it as an over-the-shoulder shooter survival horror game. That I think would be acceptable in a tactical kind of thing where you're dealing with BOWs, you know.
Yeah. And we talked about it a bunch, but like there is one of those on Japanese cell phones that we'll never get to play.
Of course.
I'm very curious. Part of me, I went through I'm so up in my head today. Mm-hmm. Cause I didn't want to do the Resident Evil answer or the X-Men answer, which are the ones that I've used a lot.
Right.
X-Men isn't an old IP for video games, but I was going to say like, what'd be cool would be a Mega Man because of how you acquire abilities. And then I was like, the second I say that, someone is going to tell me to play the Mega Man Battle Network games again. I promise I've tried and they're annoying to me.
Yeah.
And can't do it. But I think that a more traditional Mega Man kind of thing would be really cool because after picking up powers off of dead units. Is a cool idea.
I was about to say, so the idea in fighting games where you're constantly anticipating the person's next move. Yomi, I believe it is. I was about to posit the idea of like discursive Yomi that we get into in this, but I think that what that actually is just a different flavor of social anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just anxiety. Yeah. But yeah, social Yomi is a way, like a much more elegant way of saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not medicated for anxiety. I'm enhancing my social Yomi.
I mean, so here's a series that recently underwent a genre change that I think was, I haven't played much of the game, but it makes me hesitant. Yakuza going from a beat 'em up to a standard JRPG. I mean, if you're going to do anything, why would you do the standard JRPG when you have the ability to do like a tactical brawler kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, it's because for some reason, part of the identity of that series is that you have to fight a million guys.
Right.
And JRPG is a slower way to do that than beat 'em up, but tactics would be even slower.
Tactics.
So that's going to be the next generation where you spend, they really just they only want you to do karaoke and stuff. Like they're really trying to discourage you from ever engaging with the core mechanics.
Yeah. But just stepping into a CD pool bar, right? And then just seeing the combat grid pop up and it's like, shit, I have just enough AP to like get to the pool table and throw a cue ball at a guy. I hope that he broke a bottle. Like think about how awesome that would be.
You invented a way cooler genre shift for them than the one they chose.
Yes. Charlotte says, this probably is not meaty enough to call for a main topic, but could you guys talk a little about UI? It's heavily important in many games, but is such a given that I never hear anyone talk about it unless it's bad or complicated. Discuss. I think there's a reason for that, for why you don't hear it talked about. It's one of those things where, it's like a film editor. If they're doing their job really well, you're kind of not noticing it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's also something that I find similar to like a Fashion Souls thing where like I have a smaller degree of sensitivity to it than a lot of people. There's no judgment or qualitative, statement in that. It just, I tend to see through UI.
Yeah.
Better than not better, easier than some of my peers.
Yeah.
So like to me, a very standard UI that is like my health and stamina is in the upper left. The item I'm using is in the lower left. The mini map's in the upper right. Like the weapon I have equipped is in the lower right. Like that just works for me, no problem.
Yeah.
And I don't get kind of wrapped around the axle around how like elegant something is or how much space it takes up. I'm raised in the PC mind, so like the gameplay zone being a smaller zone than the entire screen doesn't bug me.
Yeah.
And I don't think video games are generally immersive. So like the non-UI mode that people will do for like Dark Souls or like a Ghost of Tsushima or something like that in order to like fully appreciate the beauty is something that is lost on me.
Yeah.
The big thing I want is text I can read from my couch. That's an accessibility thing as well as a UI thing. But I really like control over that.
Yes.
And obviously like subtitles, that's only kind of UI, but I would consider it kind of part of that.
Yeah.
So for me, it function.
It's still there.
About.
You know, I like a UI that is that is made to be used with a with a controller, right? That's how I play the majority of my games. I think that is, you know, that is one thing that raises a lot of people's ire, you know, especially as like long running PC series kind of made the move to be both console and PC. Like it reverts to the console mean. So they say like, I love the UI in Morrowind, but when they, you know, by the time I got to Skyrim, I couldn't use it because it was made for a controller. I think that actually is a bit of a false choice. I don't see that trade-off going. I think it just needs to function the way that it needs to function without committing like weird sins where there's bad like weird cardinal sins or mortal sins where there's, you know, it's unclear when you go to, you know, exit out of something if I'm going to lose something, or like, you know, it'll say cancel and then cancel or okay. And it's like, all right, do I click cancel to cancel? Like that double confirmation?
Yes,
or like,
am I canceling the cancel?
Yeah.
Another pet peeve I have is a non, like just using color to indicate the active option.
Yeah.
When there are two options.
I hate that so
it's
much.
Like, you know, yeah, whether it's white or red, like I don't know which one of those means the highlight. If I'm just flipping back and forth between them, that's pretty shitty.
Yeah, if I press left and right, it cycles. So I don't know. If you're going to do that, make it so it doesn't cycle. So I can say, okay, I can't press left anymore when the left one is yellow. So I'll click. I guess that means yellow means it's active. Here's one that I think that every single game should have now. Like the person who invented this should never have to work again because they had a good idea. When you go to quit a game, the warning or the text that's in the menu that says it has been X minutes since your last save.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's really good. If you're not going to have like an autosave.
Yes.
And then like final UI, this wasn't asking us about UI pet peeves, but like, I don't like it when I can't quit to desktop. On a game. Give me the, like, are you sure? But don't make me quit to my profile, then quit to the menu, then quit to desktop.
That
kind of layered bullshit is an insult. And I don't want it.
I can just kind of tell. It's kind of like when the checkout winds you through a cattle blind or a cattle run of impulse purchases. No, fuck you. You're just trying to make it so I don't leave.
Yeah, especially now, right. Like today, the mood we're
in this economy.
Yeah. Leo asks, do any horror games come to mind that don't get enough credit? If so, why do you think they're overlooked? And I'm going to read this nice compliment because we're both in a bad mood.
Okay.
Also, WAF means a great deal to me. Thank you both for creating something so exceptional. Your efforts are deeply appreciated.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you.
Yeah. Horror games that don't get enough credit. This is probably more your ballywick. Than mine.
Yeah. Like looking back, I think that there's, you know, a good amount of stuff from like the PS2 era. I think that Echo Knight and Echo Knight Beyond do not get their proper due, their proper shrift. Like those are extremely good horror games that are like weird and different than other things that you have played. I think Echo Knight Beyond even more so than the original. Is something where you know, you don't see people talk about it, and you know that might be a function of the fact that basically nobody bought it, so no copies exist, so therefore it is extremely expensive to get a hold of now. But like you know, in like the broader analysis looking back, I think that is a bigger, more important entry kind of into the canon, especially given, you know, how that predated the move to, you know, first person horror as kind of like the standard kind of deal, you know? Yeah.
Oh. I think Darkwood was real scary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The overhead, like isometric kind of, you're stuck in a cabin.
Yeah.
You think of the right one?
I tried streaming that, but I got really frustrated with it. It was very difficult, and it made me think like, yeah, I probably actually shouldn't try to stream this because of how hard it is, because I'm just gonna get irritated that I'm not putting on a good show. I have no idea how it would stream. Yeah. Like as just a, I never went back to it. I played it for a while, but it succeeded in being very spooky. Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was, I thought that was real good.
No.
And then there's also like just a number of games, I am always going to go to bat for Rule of Rose, because I think that is exceptionally creepy, and tells a much more kind of like sophisticated and elegant story than any number of horror games were doing at the time. And that is one that just, it is not a part of the conversation and is, generally not appreciated widely, again, because nobody bought it. And, individual copies now are like, you go to a games expo and it is one of the like top shelf glass case games,
Yeah. Isn't the control and combat in that game real dog shit?
Yeah. No, it's
my understanding.
The combat specifically is not great shakes at all, and that's kind of the main reason that I haven't insisted that we cover it on the show, because there are moments where I think this would be an act of cruelty to Gary, actually, to get through it.
Flip a table.
Yeah.
What does inter-party conflict say?
Inter-party conflict says first person, third person, top down, and isometric. You have to choose one type of view for all games moving forward. In fact, all games will be remade from the chosen view, for better and for worse. Oh, God, I love this. What view do you choose and why? Top down. Top down.
Yeah, top down is a good answer.
Yeah.
For that. Like you can do, even though like top down like platforming sucks.
Yeah. You're probably gonna lose,
like you're losing a genre no matter what.
Yeah.
On this.
Mm-hmm.
I might say third person.
Yeah.
I might. It would be really tricky to do things, but I can imagine kind of a third person kind of tactics thing, which thus means you can do an RPG with it.
Yeah.
You shunt over to your party members and you're behind their shoulder. Or their shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, and what you're describing basically is KOTOR or Mass Effect at that point.
Yeah. Which like I don't want Divinity Original Sin to be in the KOTOR engine. Like that's a disgusting sentence I just said. But, I think that I might do it just for getting a wider berth of things.
Yeah.
Like I could still play, Deus Ex. I could still play tactics games. But yeah, this is a hard one. This is a real devil's bargain.
It really is. Yeah. I favor top down, like especially and even over isometric, because isometric, that I think is very tricky to pull off. There's some great games that are in that, but then there's also, Monkey's Paw Wish. Here's, any number of Euro platformers from the 8 and 16-bit era,
You lose all action games, basically.
Yeah. I don't want to do that.
With isometric.
Yeah.
You can kind of do some Zelda stuff, but...
The top down, it gives you the most information. And I think that the more information that you have gives you the ability to obscure information, and it gives you the most flexibility as well.
Yeah. Let's see. Vaping with Dad. Good handle here. Kind of started out, we edited this because there was a little bit of a spoiler for Disco Elysium, and we still want people to play that. So we kind of summarize around that. They say, while I was liking Disco Elysium from the go, I really started loving it when in day 3, I finally passed a check to get through an adversarial character. I realized that this time I'd gone from disliking him to actually understanding him, as I realized he wasn't an entirely bad guy. My question is this: what is your best example of a moment where you realized that a specific game you were playing wasn't just a good game, but actually something very special? How does a game make that jump? Love the show. Appreciate all your work. Thanks. Yeah, we're reading the compliments this episode.
Yes.
Yeah, like best example, because there's lots of things we can point, like I can think about that make that shift happen.
Yeah.
To me, but best example is a little bit trickier. For me, probably the moment when, due to kind of like alt-itis and the first level being hard, I did Liberty Island and Deus Ex a second time and had the characters react differently to what I had done. Told me I'd like, because the game was one of the first immersive sims and first-person RPGs I ever played, and it has the cadence of a shooter. So the first time I sat down with it, I did play it like a shooter. And then the second time I played it, and was like, "This is really hard. This doesn't work." And then had my brother Paul congratulating me, and Gunter yelling at me for being a wuss. I was like, shit, this game cares how I play it, not just, what's happening in the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to go to just kind of a standard one for me, but I think kind of the entire last dungeon of Silent Hill 2, basically, where you're dealing with like mostly the one that comes through to me is Angela, like the way that her story wraps up with her walking up the flaming staircase after you give her the knife. Like that to me was like, yeah, okay. And then she says, for me, it's like this all the time. That unlocked something about that series for me generally, that it is kind of about different perceptions of the world, and that it is, not just a one size fits all ironic hell. Obviously when you get to the hallway where the tape from Mary plays, that as well, that was kind of a revelation to me about games being able to tell, a kind of grown-up story, or as grown-up story as you can have, where, a fat guy eats pizza in a bowling alley, in a ghost town with a little girl,
Yeah. Kingpin 3.
Yeah.
The adult story. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I go back to something that's kind of stereotypical, because if thinking of the best example, I think of like the first time that like something hit me that hard, and the first time I realized that the game could do that, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just that the question was just like a notable moment. So I think that counts.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like absolutely, later games would go and build on this stuff because that's how it works.
That's how art works. Dallas writes, have you ever played the newer South Park RPG games, and what are your thoughts on South Park in general? I don't know if I have ever heard you mention it. The RPGs have been really good and really funny, if you like South Park, of course.
Yeah. I don't think either of us are big South Park guys. I probably, at least in part, unfairly associate them with like cowardly centrism. Like everything is dumb. Because at the time I was trying to give it a shot, they were leaning really hard into that.
Yeah.
I know people who like it, who I trust, so I imagine there's more to it than that, but the well is a little bit poisoned.
Yeah.
For me, and I never got into the games, even though I've heard that they do interesting things for the JRPG genre. For me, it was maybe a little too late. I think that if they had hit me at a different time when I was more hungry for that kind of thing, a small numbers JRPG that has some innovations would have been something I wanted, as opposed to something that just kind of patches over some stuff that gets in the way of the genre for me in general.
Yeah, I am curious about them. I have been curious about them because it is an Obsidian game that I haven't played. But similar to Gary, you can go and listen. We did an Abject Suffering game, or an Abject Suffering episode about the terrible South Park first-person shooter from the 32-bit, 62-bit era, and we absolutely excoriate it for what you mentioned there, for that kind of, we're going to make fun of everybody, we're in the center, everything is equally kind of contemptible kind of deal. Whether or not that is currently fair or true, or has always been fair or true, I think that when you're talking about something that has been running for as long as South Park has, and has made like such big, I think, kind of swings into commentary, something with that much history is necessarily going to have that much baggage. And I am holding that baggage kind of against those games, while also, having people who I know, trust, and like recommend those games to me.
It's like so many things. It's a function of your limited time on Earth, and you have to use a heuristic. So it may be true that like there are episodes of that, like it almost is guaranteed. There are episodes of that show that you or I would like.
I mean, and there were, like, I watched it a lot, up till about halfway through college, and then it just kind of drifted away like I did from a lot of television, Yeah.
But the idea that in spite of that, you should pursue it or dig through that stuff is rooted in an idea that it is somehow like virtuous or good or worth your time to experience all of the good things.
Yeah.
As if that weren't a comic impossibility.
Right.
So like, that's why we end up using heuristics. Like for me, the two things that are like three things really that are here, even though I know that I would probably like some episodes of that, or this could also, like, not to beat up on South Park, could apply to like American Dad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which people keep telling me is like, no, it's not very Family Guy-ish. It's actually very funny. The look of the show looks bad to me. The voices are annoying. It has that Family Guy stink. Those aren't like good reasons to condemn it to hell. Like, I don't want the creators flogged, but it is a good reason for me just to watch other stuff instead.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a lot of stuff that I think I have a better chance of liking that don't have those negative modifiers on it. And at the end of the day, like after I spend that hour or two, I will have also watched something I like.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's no scarcity. It's not a thing where like I have to get all the good stuff.
Yeah. Something that I just will love about I think it was the second one they did this, the South Park RPGs. There's a difficulty option, where you can pick, okay, do I want this to be easy or hard? Easy mode has your character be white. Hard mode has your character be black.
Yeah. That is a cute touch for sure.
Yes. I have no idea if that actually impacts the mechanics, but I think that is clever and funny.
Yeah, but you got all the joy out of that without actually having to play the game.
True. Yeah, just by reading
it's one of those things where like people will sometimes pitch things and they'll pitch it based on one selling point like that. And so it's like the like necessary but not sufficient.
Yeah.
Thing. Like a selling point is necessary. I need to have some point of interest, but it's not enough to get me to actually take a plunge.
Yeah.
You know? Molten Burl.
That is such a good username.
It's really good. Says, what games or mechanics would you consider unrepeatable? The industry is very much about repetition and IPs, but are there any games that you're glad didn't get follow-ups or spiritual sequels? Games that having any more of them would lessen the original? I got an answer for this if you want some thinking time.
Yeah, I would like some thinking time on this.
I generally don't think that subsequent works lessen originals,
right?
And things. I would rather have the subsequent work than not, because it is always, an option to me whether I indulge in it. And I think about something like Tides of Numenera, which follow up to one of the best games of all time. Again, it's incredibly important to me. Ended up being ultimately not as good. But I was enriched by being able to appreciate it on its own merits.
Yeah.
So them, doing a spiritual successor to that and making kind of an IP follow-up, I still got a lot of value out of that after I adjusted my expectations. And I can still go back and play the original. It isn't going anywhere. So the idea that the original is lessened is something I generally kind of don't buy.
Yeah.
Personally, and that ties into what I was talking about in the last question, like, the no scarcity, gotta have a heuristic thing.
Yeah. This is one where I'm not basing this on like, oh, they couldn't do it again, because it's not the case. They did do it again, but this is like, I'll just say this, Portal is not replicable. Is what I have kind of, determined. Like Portal 2 is an extremely good game. I would say, it stands up against the original, expands and has really good ideas. They also did different stuff and didn't do kind of the exact same, kind of shtick with it. I think that like after that came out, there was kind of a glut of like first person puzzle kind of games. I'm thinking of like
Quantum Conundrum alone.
Yeah, I was going to beat up on enough. I was going to beat up on Quantum Conundrum, which I just found kind of boring.
It's not a good game.
Story about my uncle, kind of a bunch of stuff like that, where I just kind of dipped in thinking, okay, yeah, it's gonna be a Portal like, and they just kind of defined the genre so much and knocked it out of the park, and then moved on, refined it and knocked it even further out of the park, and then went away forever. And that is not a set of shoes that anybody can really like step into if they're trying to do a lot of the same things. I think that it fractured off, and like what we end up getting is like a Stanley Parable or a beginner's guide that that takes the the meta examples of the combative narrator and the GLaDOS type kind of thing, and expounds upon that.
I personally think that, like, to me though, like, this is I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but like never is a cursed word.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I want people to try those things, not just because we get things like Stanley Parable that are great in their own right. But also I just feel like almost any time, I'm not saying you're doing this, but anytime you're like, no one's ever going to do this, you're wrong.
Oh yeah. Long enough time.
Somebody very well could recreate that lightning in a bottle, and we just haven't thought about what it would be like yet.
Yeah, 100%. That's a little bit why I felt better picking it like a historical example where like it hasn't been captured yet, as opposed to drawing out and saying like no, like they couldn't theoretically do it. A lot of people have come for it and so far been unsuccessful. Which is more what I'm saying than it's just plain not going to happen because of some let's say function or quality of the universe.
Yeah. I don't think that in this kind of medium there are hard and fast laws like that.
Right.
And again, I'm not saying that you're saying that there are. I'm just saying that like I want people to keep trying because we're gonna just people are gonna stumble upon stuff that we didn't realize was possible, which is a feature. Yeah. That's good. So to me, the idea that anything, it just doesn't like Quantum Conundrum was pretty lame. The only thing it hurt was the fact that I got it being kind of excited. Like all the damage was me being disappointed.
Yeah.
And that's okay. To me.
Let's see here. Danny writes, the devil calls you in as consultants for a redesign of Hell. You are each allowed to pick one video game developer sin and decide on its ironic punishment.
Oh, let me stop you right there. Hell Tycoon? That's a cool idea, right?
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I know
like Dungeon
that
Master, or Dungeon Maker, or God, what am I thinking?
Yeah, Dungeon Keeper. Yeah.
Dungeon Keeper. Yeah, but like Hell Tycoon? Yeah. Anyway.
No.
Just thinking about Hell Tycoon.
I'm thinking about Hell Tycoon.
24/7.
Yeah.
Hell Tycoon is rent free in my fucking dick. It's time to
go. They say feel free to choose either ethical sins or bad game design ones. Danny says their choice would be anyone who put a fill the meter to fuck the girl mechanic into a game gets endlessly spammed with useless gifts from people trying to fill their relationship meter.
Yeah. What are the gaming sins and how would we ironically punish them?
Yeah. Well, I immediately went to because they mentioned ethical sins, like any studio, executive or high level producer who mandates crunch. It's like, oh, we're going to force you, you're going to have to live through missing milestones in your family and your kids, for eternity. Like you just can't be there. We're going to click you. You're going to get clicked.
Yeah. Y'all getting clicked, or they could just get crunched between like an ogre's jaw.
Ooh,
you like crunched, yeah.
You like unpaid overtime, do you?
How about unpaid overbite from ogre? And then obviously any kind of sexism or racism is shitty, but I don't, I don't want to just be like, well, I would actually listen to him. Yeah, I don't want to come off like that dude. Like, obviously, that stuff matters. Right. Yeah. I would also want the Crunch exec, fucking Captain Crunched. I would take bland, repetitive tappa encounters to their horrible end. Every single fight gives you 0.00001 experience, or something like that. And it's every step, every time you move. You do that?
Yeah.
The slime time.
Oh, so I would take AAA kind of open world map bloat to an extreme as well, and put people into maze situations where literally everything had a little call out over top of it, vying ever more insistently for its attention to the point where it was impossible for them to prioritize it, prioritize anything. Yeah.
Check this out. Drag out. We're getting into Cenobite shit here.
Yeah.
Drag out somebody's eyes and make it so they look at themselves like a running towards the camera puzzle.
Oh shit!
And they have to navigate the world looking in the rear view.
Oh,
they can never see what they're walking towards.
Yeah. Oh, I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, Cenobite hours.
And then
Real
they
Cenobite hours.
Cenobite reporting for duty.
Cenobite has joined the chat.
Yeah, and then they would also have to look at their body without eyes, and that's pretty upsetting.
Super upsetting.
Yeah.
Like you just see the stalks like out there.
Oh,
Yeah,
I hate that.
Cenobite. Moonborn asks, Slack Stalwart Moonborn, how do you feel about games released before 1990 nowadays? Despite growing up with an NES, I went through a long period of time as an adult avoiding them for finding them generally awful to play, but I've recently discovered quite a love for a few NES games, especially Ninja Gaiden.
I like playing games released before 1990 in the arcade, where I am not expected to interact with them very much. I can kind of choose which one I'm going to go up to. I mean, generally, we're talking about like console, like 8-bit style experiences, as opposed to like something really cool and weird from the PC, like back in the day. So I'd like to experience them in arcades, or I think that Switch Online is kind of an ideal way to do it as well.
Yeah. There's tons of like Stone Cold arcade classics that were before 1990.
Yeah.
Like you're playing like Rampart or Tapper or something like that. Those are all good games.
Yeah.
Simple, but like super fun. And then on the NES, like tons of stuff before 1990. Like we got a lot of stuff later than they did on the Famicom. So 1990 is actually like fairly late.
Yes.
For Nintendo games, like a lot of really, really great games came out before 1990 that I think hold up pretty well.
Yeah. Castlevania's, Mega Man, just stalwarts stuff that like even feels goofy to like call attention to, because obviously it's good.
Yeah, still really good. Ninja Gaiden is fun. Like those are all games that play and control well.
Yeah.
So generally feel good about them.
I think a thing that I generally want as well is just I wish that the NES remix kind of style took off and became really popular, like even at Nintendo, as a way to kind of like refresh those and add interest to them. Man, NES remix is so fucking good.
It's really like we should do a WAF on that at some point.
We
like,
really
it'd be a
should.
Weird one.
Yeah.
I want to challenge us to do weird games where it'd be hard to talk about them. I was in the arcade with Will Hughes, an actual arcade recently.
Yeah.
Because vaccination happens. And you know what we got to do for WAF at some point?
What?
Crazy Taxi.
Oh shit, dude. Yeah. I fucking love Crazy Taxi.
Crazy Taxi is so fucking fun.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it might be a short episode, but there's stuff to talk about, and we could just like camp out on the bowling mini game for like, who knows how long.
Yeah. I almost did that as one of my, the most recent arcade roundup that we did. I almost did that as one of mine.
I never played an arcade cabinet of it until just this last week.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I'd only played it on the
great.
Dreamcast.
Yeah. There's something
shit,
like there's something like about that specific steering wheel. Like oftentimes like a racing game will have like a real like plastic and light steering wheel that doesn't have like a good heft to it, that doesn't build up momentum. The Crazy Taxi steering wheel, at least all the ones that I've ever done,
steering a wheel that doesn't fly off your hand while you're driving.
While you're driving. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I get to trying to say.
Yeah. No, it's a good steering wheel that has like a satisfying stop when you reach the end. I want my arcade driving game to be as noisy as possible when I play it.
Yeah. I can't remember how we got on. Oh, NES remix. Yeah. I want more of that as well. Those games fucking own bones.
Yes, agreed. Let's see here.
What does Kay say?
Kay says, do you have any favorite instances of real-life art, painting, sculpture, etc., appearing in video games? Also, any favorite in-game art? I'm personally a fan of Nishandra's painting from Dark Souls 2. It always reminds me of a Jan van Eyck work. Thank you for being great guys. Thank you. Something that I love, because it always pops up in horror games, is the basic like normie move is to put in Saturn devouring his child. The cool S tier enjoyer move, whatever meme you want to do, is Judith beheading Hilaire Finis.
Okay.
That Caravaggio painting. Famous, you'll recognize it, biblical lady beheading a dude. I was streaming a game which it was called Craven Manor. It came out before Layers of Fear, but it kind of had that kind of feel. And I was like, I saw a Renaissance, spooky Renaissance art, and I was like, oh, I bet you there's going to be Judith beheading Holofernes. Then I rounded a corner, and right there it was.
Bam.
It was like, yes. So it's a good painting, but I also like just how common it is.
Yeah. Well, that kind of shit's great. Like, I love pulp fine art.
Yeah.
That like you can enjoy, not just because you're like, man, look at the brush strokes, but also like, man, look at that cool badass monster.
Yeah.
Doing a cool ass thing. Yeah. It's like when I read Lord of the Rings, they had swords. It's like literature, but also, man, they fight some orcs. I'll take the second half of that question because those are good answers. I've always liked the original art that is in Dishonored.
Yeah,
I think that stuff looks cool.
Keeping it in the same studio, we recently heaped a lot of praise on the posters that are up in Prey.
The design on those are incredible.
Yeah, I'm generally like a big fan of like propaganda design from games, propaganda or like corporate communication signage. Yes. So like Alien Isolation, I have a lot of problems with that game. But nothing visually is a problem with that. It's fucking amazing. And they have some excellent like worker safety posters, in addition to like just the standard, media posters that people have up around their living spaces. Amazing stuff there. Yeah.
I always really loved the Fallout Vault Tech iconography before it got fully, GameStopified.
Yeah.
Like, geekified. Like now you can just buy all of it because Fallout is big, but early on, like I was a really, really big fan of that kind of duck and cover stuff. Basically what I'm saying is before it was cool.
Right. No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Joseph asked, have you heard about the new Resident Evil book that is on Audible? It's called Itchy Tasty and covers the development and history of every game between 1 through 4. I think you guys really like it. Physical game comes out in a month. Also, did you know that they have Resident Evil board games? Forget the company, but they made an RE2 and 3 one and are in the process of doing a revision or a version of RE1 as well. Love the show and all you do. Thanks for the content. Yeah. I have not heard of Itchy Tasty, but I do have an Audible credit, burning a hole in my pocket. So that's tempting. And I have the Resident Evil 2 board game, which I bought when I was on a jag of buying solo board games, but I've not played it yet. It looks gorgeous. It looks really, really cool, but I just have not busted it out yet.
I was really discouraged because it's made by the same people. It's at least made by the same company that did the Dark Souls 3 one, Dark Souls 3 board game, and I was not necessarily a fan of that. So yeah, I have not looked at or seen those, and I've never heard of Itchy. You know what? Somebody had mentioned something about Itchy Tasty, like in a stream, in a chat that was there, and I promptly forgot about it. I'm happy that it's here though, because that you mentioned it here, so I can use my own Audible credit on that as well. They don't sponsor us anymore. We're just fans.
Yeah, I like audiobooks because like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Look
at something.
That's not true. I do read books, but I like to have my mind occupied while I'm walking around.
Yeah. Let's see here. Do we want to do one more game question before moving on to other stuff? Yeah. Let's see. Biff Tannen, it's an honor for you to write in, sir, says, what would you like to see in a Fallout 5? I'm thinking dialogue choices. I think NW versus, I think maybe New Vegas instead of Fallout 3. How much crafting, length, location, leveling, etc. I personally would like a new location outside of the US, maybe South Africa, UK, or Tokyo, and would like a system where the side quests drive the main piece with multiple possible endings.
I want those first and last things for sure. Like a return to New Vegas would be really cool. And and I want the side quest to drive the main thing. I've been thinking a lot about like, what does Europe look like, in Fallout times and stuff like that. And this isn't so much a thing with the later Fallouts, but I think the reason why that never happened is because it's easy to forget that early Fallouts were really rooted in Americana.
Yeah, I was going to make that same point. it's parodying a very specific like America centric and American like America supremacy kind of ideal,
like nifty 50s happy days, kind of shit. In a way that the equivalent of that in other countries is just so different. That you would have an entirely different flavor and it might not feel like Fallout. I'm not saying you couldn't do that, but like a spin-off or something might be a better spot for that.
The post-war in Europe and specifically Japan, but a lot of Asia is wildly different than it was over here. Not everybody got as fucking terrible as we did.
Yeah. Or even if we don't think about terribleness, just thinking about aesthetics.
Yes.
Just that kind of like ironic duck and cover.
Yeah.
As mentioned before, like that kind of thing is an American thing. So in terms of the United States, like, fuck, man, get out of the East Coast.
I know,
for God's
right?
sakes. Like, New Vegas is really well established and everything, but all the stuff they did in the Pacific Northwest and California was in Fallout 1 and 2 before they could really, do spaces in a way that like felt satisfying to explore. And the only thing that takes place in the Midwest is Fallout Tactics. I would like both those areas explored, very much so.
Agreed. I think that it is a shame that Fallout 76 is attached to the game that it is, because like being in the hills, in the Holla in West Virginia, like that is actually a really interesting area of the country, even just like, culturally, yes, but also like, scenically, as well. Yeah. I would want them to get out of the Northeast. Can you think of like, you're waiting years from Fallout 3 to Fallout 4, and you think, okay, they've done like Washington, which is all wrapped up in, like a lot of like founders kind of stuff. Like, all right, can you think of a more minuscule step than the one they took? Like, and we're gonna go to Boston now. It's gonna be about the founders.
They love Maryland. They just love their zone. It's a bummer too, because it's like I like Fallout 4 a lot, and they go to some zones that feel pretty different. There, especially in the DLC, but it was a ridiculous move.
Yes.
Absolutely ridiculous. I wonder about how much of it has to do with the reason why they've skipped all the flyover stuff is just like weird coastal supremacy. Believing that there is not interesting incident in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Which is not true. I think like a marketable idea that I would love to see that I could actually see them do is go back to the areas of the first game and have, the actual consequences of that. Yeah. It's a little bit what they did with New Vegas, but go into like lower Canada, upper Washington kind of zone from the first game.
Yeah.
And, just and make some time pass. So it's different.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
Agreed.
Yeah. Moving on to life questions. Greg asks, now that the pandemic is getting better, I'm starting to try to date again and wondering about the best way to explain one of my hobbies is gaming. Totally understand that a lot of women have very negative connotations about gaming anyone who enjoys gaming, as it brings to mind the worst parts of the hobby, and many of them have dated loser guys who gamed all the time. But I work 40 hours a week and have limited game time and also enjoy other hobbies. It's no worse than my parents who enjoy watching TV every night. Of course, this would be easier if she enjoyed gaming herself, but failing that, do you have any experience or advice in how or when to ease someone into the fact that you like and enjoy video games?
I mean, I've dated women who don't like video games. I'm not necessarily the best person for dating advice, but I think that in general, no matter what you like, presenting yourself as a well-rounded person, or even better yet, being a well-rounded person, is generally the way to go. Even outside of like preconceived notions about particular hobbies, which might not be as pronounced as maybe you're assuming.
Yeah. I am dating again now, and my philosophy on that has always been like, don't hide anything that you do, but also present yourself as complete. Basically what you said, like you don't want to ever put on a false front, because if you do that, you're betting against yourself. If you succeed, if it works out, you're then putting on that false front forever.
Yep.
So you want to disclose. Like I'm big into disclosure. And women are right to have some hinky feelings about gamers, not just because of like the fact that some of these dudes are losers, but also because it's a really toxic culture. A lot of the time, like, it's possible these women have dealt with, like, especially if they like games, have dealt with gamer dudes who fucking suck. But just being like, I enjoy video games, and amongst a list of all the things you enjoy, I think is the right move. And if a woman is like, or a person you're dating, not to be gendered there. If a person you're dating is like, I had a really bad experience with somebody who played video games. I don't want to take that risk. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's totally their prerogative. Everyone has their own heuristics.
I was going to say, you got to have a heuristic.
Heuristics are the order of the day, man. Like, you can't, and heuristics, and spend less time judging the validity of other people's heuristics, because they're really not losing out on as much as you think they are.
Yeah.
So somebody, I'm not saying that Greg wouldn't be good to date. I'm just saying that, like, to them, they can, if they had that bad experience, asking them to get over that baggage for you is just not a very strong ask. You are better served, trying again, like taking another roll of the dice.
Yeah.
And finding somebody who doesn't have to get over that baggage. Like, it can work in spite of that baggage. You could change somebody's minds about people who play video games, but don't make that your task, because that's a different thing than you're signing up for. That's like a job that's harder than the one you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Any final thoughts on that before we move on? We only had one life question.
Yeah.
So
no, that's about all I had.
What does Maya say?
Maya says, pop culture question. Titling media is hard. What are some of the best titles for movies, TV, and games, etc.? And what are some of the worst? Bonus question. Which is a worse title? The Last Exorcism 2 or A Haunting in Connecticut, Ghosts of Georgia?
That second one is good, actually. That's very funny, and I love that.
Yeah. That is so good.
The Last Exorcism 2, I give it a pass because it can, the story can be about the exorcism, and the story can be multiple parts. It doesn't have to refer to like another exorcism after the last one. But The Haunting in Connecticut, Ghost of Georgia just raises a lot of interesting and fun questions I'd like to have answered.
Yeah. That is a really interesting. I immediately want to Google what that is. I've never heard of that, and it's quite good.
Yeah. I think bad titles don't tell you anything about the thing. You're like watching a movie and it's called like, Maximum Indemnity. And I'm like, that could be a million movies.
Yeah.
Or like when we talked about Prey, like we just did Prey, and like that's a great game, but not a great title for a game because, it makes sense, but it doesn't really tell you anything about it. I get that kind of thing confused all the time.
Yeah.
So I want something that like at least lets me know a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit like it's basically just branding, in a lot of ways. I'm terrible at naming stuff, but like you want it to be, to be novel, both novel and memorable. Like I have no idea what this game is. Like I just recently heard about it. Have no idea if it's going to work for me. But a title that I'm all about recently is An Airport for Aliens Currently Run by Dogs.
Yeah. Raises a lot of questions.
It's a good ass name for something. Yeah.
And since we're in self-care mode on this episode, I'm going to allow myself to be a parody of myself and say that I think that all of like the Kingdom Hearts naming conventions or visual novel naming conventions are actually really bad.
Yeah.
All of the like underscore divided by all that stuff just feels extremely awkward and dumb to me. And I understand like many things in those games, other people are just like, lol, it's awesome. And I just don't have that gene where I'm like, oh no, that's actually cool.
Yeah.
Star Ocean, integrity and faithlessness. Come on. Like it does not roll off the tongue. You can do better than that.
One of the worst titles that I can think of is actually for a game that I really like. Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines. Just whenever you get into like the necessary branding, like, okay, here's the sub name, and then here's the actual name, and then you get into like Star Wars: Dark Forces, Star Wars: Dark Forces 2,
Jedi Outcast, yeah.
Jedi Knight, Dark Force, or say Jedi Knight 2 : Jedi Academy. Like, yeah, just whenever you get into like weird branding stuff, making it far more confusing as opposed to being far more specific.
Yeah, multiple colons are annoying.
Yeah.
And yes, you can get away with doing a colon and an M dash, but like that shit sucks. Mm-hmm. 1 colon, 2 clauses in your fucking title.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. What sticks out for you as a good title?
Like Heat Signature and Gunpoint are both really good titles, just because of the recency bias.
Yeah.
Like they're cool, punchy names.
Yeah.
Tactical Breach Wizard is a great title. Monster Train is really good.
Yeah.
It's very direct. Those are all really good titles. I think that Deathloop is a really good title.
Yeah.
For that game. Like, I haven't played that game yet, but that is evocative, tells you what's going on, and sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just because we're recording the Midsummer episode tomorrow. Hereditary is an amazing name for that.
Yeah, that's a really good.
Yeah.
Really good title. Like titles that have multiple meanings.
House
I've
of
been
Leaves.
because I reread it all the time, but I've been on the edge of doing another Providence reread.
Oh yeah.
Like the Alan Moore, and that's a great title for that. Like, Divine Providence, and then also the City Providence for what it's actually about. That shit's good.
Ghosts of Georgia. I love it so much.
Yeah, the Haunting Connecticut. I had to look that up. Like, I think that's sincerely incredibly good. Like, what if it had been like a Haunting in Connecticut, Midtown Madness, or like Trouble off the New Jersey Turnpike or something. Like, you could do a lot of things with the Haunting in Connecticut brand. Really like.
It's a 2013 psychological horror film. Okay.
Oh, here comes the Miracle Mile. The Haunting in Connecticut, Space Needle's Revenge. Way into it.
Oh man. Let's see here. I think it's you who goes.
Okay. Andrew says, top 5, I think you should leave sketches from season 1, and top 5 of 2, and why. Not sure if you'll read this, but mine are respectively: No Car Ideas, Hot Dog Car, Bones Are Their Money, Santa Brought It, Chunky, and then second season, Coffin Flop, Haunted House, Blues Brothers, Carl Havoc, and Bob Odenkirk has doubles of every classic car. I just wanted to read this because I knew it would make no sense to anybody, and to let you know that I think we are going to do a tier list for I think you should leave sketches, because they're all living rent free in my brain.
Oh yeah.
So that's where we'll elaborate on this kind of thing.
Yeah. So watch out for that. That'll hit the Patreon.
Yeah. And it will be for some. I keep walking around my house saying, "Don't give me a bad deal or I'll." And popcorn.
I'm scared of how much I need wine.
It is very, very funny.
Yeah.
Also, I'm looking forward to adding you to my list of seeing if you're somebody who understands new printer and I don't, because that has been some of the most alienated I've felt this year.
Oh,
is everybody in the world being like, new printer is fucking awesome, and I'm like, I don't get it. There's no twist.
New printer, the Patty Harrison sketch from season 1.
And I love her. I'm not anti Patty Harrison. Like a bunch of my favorite shit from season 2, Patty Harrison. I just don't get it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No,
So,
we'll talk about it there.
Yeah. We'll litigate the hell out of
it. Whether anybody wants it or not, they probably don't.
Yeah. It will be for some.
Oh man. Let's see here. Getting down to some show questions. We're at about an hour right now. Let's do a couple of these and then do lightning round, because we have a lot of responses about Horizon Zero Dawn specifically. But Max says, I've been loving Orb and making my way through Venture Brothers for essentially the first time. But it has made me want to hear you guys do another episode by episode podcast as well. Are there any other shows that you think would be in the Duckfeed wheelhouse for such treatment? I think Adventure Time would make for a fantastic discussion between you two. Love you guys, and thanks for all you do.
Oh, that's a sweet idea. I would like an excuse to rewatch Adventure Time too. No plans, but I think that would be fun.
Yeah. The Venture Brothers podcast was almost a King of the Hill podcast, but we did not want to horn into Bob Mackey's territory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Initially, it seemed like they were just doing the season 1 as a bonus, but then they've been keeping up with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we out of professional respect, and then also like it would be a different show, but it would be a thing where they're so meticulously researched.
Yes.
On that network that like I wouldn't want to compete in that sphere really.
Yeah.
It's tricky because we had to find something that we both like really have the passion to do, like really love. We've talked a lot about doing a Breaking Bad show. One reason we haven't, other than just time commitment, is the fact that it feels like a crowded market.
Yes.
Like a lot of people talk about that show because it's incredible. But having now finally like got into Better Call Saul, I could see that being really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it would just it would need to be something that we that is both not crowded, right? Like doing a meticulous beat by beat of like Chernobyl would probably, and it's pretty saturated. You can find that. And
it'd be short.
Yep.
Like it might be fun. Like I still kind of want to do an unfilmable on Chernobyl, but don't want to do like a whole series. It might be a little bit silly. Yeah. But like we're not opposed to doing that. We have no plans for what happens after Orb ends, which is moving a little bit faster than I even really thought it would. We have no plans for that, but we'll do something in that slot, most likely.
Yeah.
Holland asks, I was re-listening to the Resident Evil 4 episode for the millionth time, and you mentioned that being the 5-year anniversary of the show. Then I realized that episode is 5 years old, and holy shit, you're about to have the 10-year anniversary of the show. First of all, congratulations. What an awesome accomplishment. On to my question, any plans to celebrate the 10-year anniversary? It's been Dunkirky in our regular lives. That would be a good thing to do at Virtual Duckfest 3, which we have just not started planning yet, in full disclosure. I think it would be cool to do it, but we have to actually get off our asses and start. And then I was planning, the only thing I know that I had planned was doing the dispatch that month and talking about it for our topic.
Yeah.
Because big, nice round number. So the answer is that we have one plan and I have one idea, and it's been about mustering the wherewithal to do it.
Yes. Yeah. I don't have anything to add on top of that. I don't generally celebrate things like that. I don't know. It's just weird. Weird to me. It's not weird that people do it. I just feel weird, even endeavoring to start.
Yeah. Self-congratulatory stuff isn't our, generally our steez.
Yeah. But it's crazy. Who would have thought? 10 years.
Yeah, it is really wild. Here's to another 70.
Yep.
I for one, I'm looking forward to being the world's oldest podcaster at 110. And you being the second oldest podcaster at what, like 20? I don't know how old you'll be at that point. But yeah, it's gonna be great. Yeah. Thank you, Holland. And Holland, you've been with us forever.
You have.
Like I've chatted you a lot. You helped me do formatting shit when I was publishing my books. Holland, big shout out to you as well.
Yeah.
Your anniversary of being a solid bro.
Yeah. Do you want to do lightning round?
Let's do some lightning round. So if we didn't get to your question, this was an Oops All Questions episode, but we still have tons of questions. We're getting a little bit behind. We will be doing a catch up. Don't you worry.
Yeah. I'll get us started here with inter-party conflict. You asked, have either of you ever gotten into or been interested in 3D printing? Every 4 months or so, I'll think, oh, that'd be neat. And then I'll remember, oh, I wouldn't have anything to actually do with it.
Yeah. I don't need more doodads.
Yeah.
I like 3D printed things. I've bought a few 3D printed things that I think are pretty cool. And I have thought about it as well, but I just don't want it to end up in the closet with like my ham radio and my guitar.
If it's hard, don't do it. It was hard, so you quit.
Yeah. Or just I imagine I spend a lot of time fantasizing that I have time, which could be better served by taking that time and fantasizing and spending it.
Yeah.
Things, But there's a lot of like me laying in bed being like, man, I can get into this. And I've gotten to the point where I'm at peace with the idea of that just being pleasurable in and of itself.
Yeah.
that has to be adequate on its own.
Yeah.
So no is my answer. I also don't know where I'd put it. I move into a successive series of smaller apartments. Nick Phillips asks, if you could delete one piece of media, either a game, movie, book, album, TV show, from existence so that it never existed, which would you pick? Let's make a ground rule of not doing the actual sensitive answer and do this in the fun spirit as asked. So no answers that are like, oh, but everything gives somebody joy. I wouldn't want to take that away from people and make the world worse. What about the poor production assistants that worked on that show that I hate? They had families. Yeah. Let's not do that because that is contrary to the spirit of fun.
You can't criticize this. People worked 80 hours a week to make it.
Yeah. Let's undo that real answer because that's lame.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna do the obvious answer. Kingdom Hearts brings me no joy, and I don't think that jokes about Kingdom Hearts are funny anymore, or maybe ever were.
Yeah, it's kind of bad from all angles.
Yeah.
You know, and like, what would we lose? One above average action RPG.
Yeah.
You know, that's okay.
Yeah.
That is a real good answer. I find that stuff pretty obnoxious as well, obviously. So I would get rid of it. In terms of like, you know, not having that answer, that's pretty tricky because of the industry that I'm in. Like, it's very easy for me to ignore most movies and games and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say one just because it's what I'm feeling right now. But if I was actually granted this genie wish, I would think about it more. Fuck a Space Jam.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of seeing images around that. I'm so sick of seeing Doritos bags.
I'm tired of seeing like stories about, you know, like individual things. Tired of seeing people's tweets. The fake tweets, like the one that you did. Like I don't understand why Bugs Bunny, you know, came out real hard on the Israel Palestine issue or whatever you said or retweeted.
I don't remember saying that, but like I might have done that.
Yeah. Like those are good. Making up things that could have happened in, you know, just but didn't. Those are fun to me.
I think the one that I think I retweeted Pixelated Boat talking about Bugs Bunny giving Michael Jordan oral.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
It wasn't about Israel Palestine because if I'm gonna like it, it's about oral. Like providing and, you know, receiving oral is my raison d'etre, my raison d'etre. Like so yeah, that's but yeah, that kind of stuff I'm okay with, but it's still not worth Space Jam.
Right.
And this, like, I don't know, 20-year media blitz we've been.
Yeah.
I'm so annoyed.
Yeah. Oh man, so cynical too. I don't know. Stop
grotesque.
It. Stop it. Mark says, is there any piece of media you wish you could reclaim from the memification of the internet? I like the first few seasons of Rick and Morty. Haven't seen like the last few. If I revoke it from the internet, I am not just pulling it for memes, but I am also kind of getting rid of the toxic elements of the fan base. Then I would say, yeah, I wish that I could openly like that show without being
caveats.
Without saying like, but I'm not one of those guys.
Yeah. That's a good answer.
Yeah,
because that also, it's not necessarily fair, but that also stopped me from watching the show.
Yeah,
you know, it was just like the Elon Musk stink.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a good answer to that because I don't have a running tally of all the stuff that has been like memified.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for things. I get bummed out when I find out something that I like turns out it's like super memey.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that I have like a better answer than that.
Yeah.
So for a little while, frogs, like when Dat Boy got frogified, you know, for white supremacy reasons.
Right.
That was a bummer. And then I was, you know, that happened with Pepe and I was sad. And then that movie came out and I like that movie. And then that dude started selling rare Pepes as NFTs. So I don't know how to feel.
Matt Fury started selling NFTs?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah. That sucks.
Yeah, I can't keep up. Like, you know, make it all stop.
Yeah.
You know, please let it all stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mike asks, as we reopen and are traveling a bit more, what is your go-to airplane entertainment?
Audiobooks, podcasts. I can't look at anything in an airplane. Can't. I need to. Well, what I need to do is put in headphones, close my eyes, and just wrap my arms around myself as much as possible, so that my wide shoulders don't impede on other people's space, and just try to not exist. Just sit there and concentrate on not existing for the duration of the flight.
Have you considered downgrading to cargo class on a plane?
You mean shipping myself like in a big crate with some air holes?
Yeah, like to Abu Dhabi or what have you, where your shoulders won't be a problem and you can't see anything.
And also it's freezing cold because you're in the unpressurized. Yeah. Okay.
It'd be cheap.
I mean, do you count funeral expenses as part of the round trip?
I count pauper class. I count Potter's Field expenses.
No coffin, please. Yeah.
No coffin. Wet mud. For a while, I was getting whatever the newest Pokemon game was and using that as an airplane, because if I'm like trapped, like grinding makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, though, I don't do that. I will usually play like a comfort video game. So like I'll do Isaac runs, or if there is an in-flight TV, I'll browse around on channels and pick like a popcorn classic to watch. Like I'll watch The Great and Powerful Oz and see if I fall asleep during it. Fuck it, you know.
Yeah. I like the seat back trivia game. I'll play that for about 20 minutes and then start getting motion sick and then just close my eyes and again concentrate on not existing.
Prior to Disney Plus, airplanes were my way to watch whatever the most recent Simpsons were as well.
Yeah.
Just to kind of check in on it. Mm-hmm. You know, so that was like a go-to, like, oh boy, kind of thing.
Yeah. Joshua says, did you catch Bo Burnham's Inside? What did you think of it? No, I've never seen anything by Bo Burnham. I have heard people again who I like and trust say good things about that special, but my comedy consumption on Netflix kind of mostly just revolves around watching the same John Mulaney's specials over and over because I don't have to focus on them. Over. Oh yes, of course. But I mean like stand up stuff, you know?
Yeah. I have not as well, even though I've heard really good things and would like to. I'd never heard of Bo Burnham before this point. It felt like he was inceptioned into reality like this year. To me, it was really surreal.
Yeah.
And people really like it, but I just have not watched it yet.
No.
Gabriel asks, are you interested in the Steam Deck? Yes. Gary is. I put in the little pre-order nugget for it.
Oh, cool.
You know, I would like to have my Steam library available at any time. It is easily, without even any contest, the best games library I own. And I think that's probably true of almost everybody listening to this, whether they want to admit it or not. And just the idea of having access to all of that at any time from anywhere is incredibly appealing.
Yeah.
Like Monster Train will be my plane entertainment in the future.
Yeah. I think it looks neat. If I have any reservations about it, is just from Steam hardware in the past, not so much because of quality, because I'm one of those maniacs who likes the Steam Link or the Steam controller. And but just in terms of just kind of support, like getting hardware from Valve feels like getting hardware from Google. I'm very skeptical that it will that they will not support it or will not take it seriously. You know, that is not to instill doubt in anybody who you know picked one of those up, because like, I mean, how could you not see the appeal of that, right?
Yeah.
For me personally, I felt a little bit less. I felt a little bit less kind of like drive to do it, because that niche for me, access to, portable access to my Steam library is actually filled by my phone and an excellent like controller attachment for my phone called the Backbone One. And from that, I can stream any Steam game to my phone wherever I'm playing it, to my iPad, even not with that controller, but I can also do it on the iPad for mouse-based games. And I can even, as a bonus, stream from my PS5 and my Xbox Series S as well. So like that need You know, as long as I'm in my house, I can play it portably, and fuck it, man, I don't leave my house very much. So that is the most pressing need for me personally.
Yeah, you sent me a link to that thing, and I've still got the link bookmarked. I was just looking at it and was considering that, but I wanted my thinking process was literally like, I'm going to start getting on planes at some point.
Yeah.
You know, and even when I'm not on a plane, like I end up killing a lot of time in airports.
Yeah.
So that was my thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't. No. I understand the appeal of it. I just don't feel I don't feel the need right now.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. No. And the final one here, Andy K250 asks, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? I don't know.
Probably an ant.
Yeah.
I don't want to give up walking.
Walking and talking is pretty important to me, actually. Yeah. I mean, I like there are trees that I think are pretty, you know, like a red maple, you know,
sure.
like a birch, like a birch tree is
They're
good.
Nice, not pretty. Yeah, you don't say pretty tree. You say, hey, nice tree.
I have to neg the tree. I would have said silver maples until I moved on to a piece of property where I have two silver maples in my front yard that have several times obstructed my sewer pipe. So fuck sugar maple or fuck silver maples. You don't
want to be that though, and like fuck your sewer pipe. Like it's not about what kind of trees you want more of in your yard. It's which one you get to be.
Which one you get to be. Yeah. They're tall, sturdy trees. I would want to be a tree that sticks around for a while, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the I feel like that might be an I have no mouth and I must scream situation.
Oh, absolutely.
Like those giant redwoods might be like literally in hell.
Yeah. It's like when Philippe asked Theodore, do trees feel pain? And Theodore says yes, but in a way that is really hard to care about.
Yeah. Yep. It's I think I would have a hard time being a tree because they don't seem like they get a lot of incident. Mm-hmm. And I can, I like to meditate and kind of have quiet moments. Yeah. But like not multiple days of them.
It'd be cool to have birds living on me, but not squirrels.
But bugs. Yeah, but like, you want even if you wanted squirrels, you're going to be crawling with like mites and shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would want to be a small tree that lives my lifespan that's parked in front of a TV or computer that has human eyes and a human mouth and legs and arms. So I don't really want to do that. I reject this question. I do not want to be a tree. I take it back.
You would want to be Harold circa Fallout 2, not Fallout 3.
Yes. Yeah. I think a tree would be a special kind of hell.
Yeah.
So people are putting like posters in you. Drinking your blood, like there's like a hellish existence.
Your shitty kid ties a tire to you.
Like you're just like, and even when they're not on the tire, you have to lift a tire all the time. Yeah. Like the isometric exercise of that would just be fucking horrible.
Yeah.
Like God, we should put them out of their misery. I never really thought about this before, but trees have it rough. This is my Captain Planet villain.
Oh, this is
story.
Your turn. Yeah.
Yeah. When they had the evil Captain Planet group that they made, that were the 5 evil elements that were like radiation, air pollution, water pollution, smog, and deforestation.
It's not heart pollution.
Yeah, it's just very, very funny to me. Like deforestation by any method is what I represent.
Just negative trees.
Yep. Just getting rid of some trees. That's me. Let's move on to responses because people came out in force.
They did. We had a ton of responses. And you know what that means? We couldn't use all of them. Couldn't feature all of them here. And some of these have been edited for brevity. Tons of people wrote in about Horizon Zero Dawn, just kind of by virtue of things, what people wrote and what ended up choosing. Spoilers are actually light on this. Like there's no definitive answers about like what happens cool in the backstory for that. There are allusions to themes though, obliquely. So proceed at your own risk.
Yeah. Yeah, so just know that there'll be spoilers. I'll get started here with Eric. Eric says via contact, the moment Lance Reddick popped up, I got so excited about all the glue jokes you guys are going to get to do. I'm writing this before the episode comes out, but I'm pretty sure you didn't let me down. Anyway, Horizon Zero Dawn, it's pretty good.
So,
Spritz and Glue Month.
I hope that you weren't disappointed. Obviously, the second I heard Lance Reddick, I was like, "Yep, no, that's good. We're gonna get 5 minutes in that 4-hour episode, at least about Spritz and Glue."
Got your balls, Father Craig.
I'm surprised that we didn't talk about Spritz and Glue when we talked about Prey with the glue gun.
Yeah, where you literally spritz your glue.
Yeah, just all over the walls and then walk on it.
You didn't do the side quest where you had to fill up the septic tank with it.
Yeah. It's funny what you missed. I'm also surprised in Prey that none of us made you have 1 hour to move your cube jokes.
Sure.
About that.
I also, there's a screenshot I took of, it looked like somebody tried to flush one of the Typhons, and I didn't make a total paint job joke, but the picture looks like 100% like somebody did a total paint job on Talos 1.
Oh God. So, we just talked about, we can't get to everybody. Now we're talking about this.
Here are a list of references we didn't make in old episodes. That's the level we're at right now.
Yeah, here's opportunities that we missed. Mateus says via contact, listening to the episode was interesting. I missed most of the old world backstory, as I found the ruins extremely boring and hard to navigate. I just made the beeline to the quest mark. On the other hand, the tribes quest never developed enough for me to care. The second to Sun King quest being a prime example. Yet despite all of that, Horizon succeeded in one area. It was a great backseat gamer game for my girlfriend, which made it free conscience pleasure for me whenever I played it. And that alone is enough for me to have my fingers crossed for this series.
Yeah, it would be a good topic episode one month. Like, what makes a game fun to watch?
Yeah.
And not just play, or like just talk about a little bit about the experience of watching games, because that was what I used. I mean, even now, like I went to the arcade recently and ran out of quarters before Will, and was just enjoying walking around, watching him play. I didn't need to get in the action. I just wanted to watch him have fun.
Yeah.
I used to do that when I was a kid as well. So
agreed.
It definitely depends on the game.
Yeah.
Matthew says via contact, we're also going to be a little quick with our responses to these as well. Just assume that if we don't have specific things to say about those questions and such, we probably agreed.
Yes.
Matthew says via contact, on the heels of me completing The Witcher 3 and its DLC, Horizon Zero Dawn was exactly the open world action game I was looking for. I did everything I could do in Horizon Zero Dawn. I dug into every side quest, errand, and petty squabble I could find. Every time I was hoping the side content would reach the heights of the side stuff I devoured in The Witcher 3. It never did, but the play of Horizon Zero Dawn still felt great in the hands, so I kept going. Frozen Wilds was an improvement, but still never hit the highs of The Witcher 3 base game. Maybe the next installment will make some bolder choices. I feel like it probably won't.
Yeah.
I don't think that Horizon Zero Dawn really got dragged for its bland quest design or writing outside of our podcast.
Yeah.
And I think that they will probably be safer more than anything.
Yeah.
With that stuff, or at least as safe.
Yeah. For me, something that I think I really kind of hit on shortly after becoming a really big Dark Souls fan is that, eventually if there's something so good, you have to, learn to not expect everything to be as good as that, or else you're not going to be happy again. I think expecting an open world game or story, quest scenario design to be as good as The Witcher 3 is going to be a bit of a disappointment. Just like expecting, the story of any game to be as good as Disco Elysium, is going to lead to disappointment as well. Eventually it needs to be put up on the shelf, and other stuff, stop holding it up to other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like the part of my brain that still compares every set of companions to the Torment crew is not serving me.
Yes.
I still do it because it's the best set of companions in video games ever. But it's, I feel like if I stop thinking about that, then I'm dishonoring them, my friend Dakan.
Yeah. So it's tough. Yeah. and I have to break that as well. That's not just about games either, but like movies and stuff too. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I will still watch a movie and be like, this action is not as good as John Wick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, who gives a shit? Like that's like literally the watermark. The idea that like media and art has to be this weird treadmill of just consistently getting better and chasing higher highs.
Yeah.
That's how you get flatliners. Like that's how you start flatlining. You can't just keep chasing the peaks.
Do you want flatliners? Because that's how you get flatliners.
You get flatliners. You don't want flatliners. Like if you're always just looking for action better than John Wick and not getting it, eventually you're gonna have to glimpse the other side.
So what I
go well for you.
What I like about this is it sounds like we're talking about like just the pursuit of that in media results in the product Flatliners, and then the reboot of Flatliners from a few years ago. No, we're talking literally about like the practice of flatlining.
Talking about underground basement flatlining fight clubs.
Yes.
Like flat clubs. Like, this is your basement. You stop somebody's heart.
So. Oh, man. Let's see.
I hope that we didn't just create a really, really horrible TikTok challenge that gets us arrested.
That's a Captain Sunshine thing.
Like, we're gonna end up being in like that, like the Slender Man documentary, basically.
Yeah, we started the Flatliner challenge. Weirdly, we didn't see it turning out badly.
Yeah.
Oh fuck. Elliot says via contact. I like sad punchy us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're feeling better through recording.
Right.
If you go back to the beginning of this episode, we were feeling way more dour, and then like recording is actually fun.
Yeah.
So
Elliot writes, I really enjoyed this game for what it was. The aesthetic was wonderful, from the design of the enemies to the way different nations adorned machineware. I thought it had some great unique sound effects as well. I feel the game was very clever at points, showing how different nations would interpret old world discoveries, but it leaves a lot to be desired. I just hope the sequel can expand on this in a more meaningful way, specifically around how indigenous cultures, both ancient and modern, not only have more efficient ways to utilize their knowledge of the earth, but how they benefit more than technological, and technological in quotes, nations in doing so. It could be an effective way of challenging Eurocentrism.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people had that feeling about this game. Like a lot of like the kind of discourse around it.
Yeah,
was that it takes the kind of tribal primitiveness as just red. Yeah, without really challenging that idea at all.
Mm-hmm.
And within the story, the context of the story, it makes sense because they were like literally shunted out into this horrible monster world with no knowledge. So the fact that they accomplished what they accomplished is still like incredible.
Yeah.
But it did, and they weren't an actual, indigenous society. They had all this baggage. Yeah. But I think that a lot of people wanted that.
Mm-hmm. I could see,
I would not hold my breath for the sequel doing that.
Right. Well. I could see like, I would like to see, I guess I should say, kind of interrogations of the way that other different cultures, popped up. Like what they value and how they shape it, but I don't know that that is the domain that they're going to be playing in.
It's a weird thing where like I say that I would like to see that. I don't know that I would like to see it in Horizon Zero Dawn.
That's the thing, yeah.
I think that I just wanted something there with that stuff. It's like my instinct is saying yes, I want that because it's more ethically sound and it's more interesting. But it's just not really the type of game that was ever going to be.
Right.
I want something to be there instead of the nothing.
Yeah.
That is, at the heart of the modern kind of world building.
Yeah. It's kind of like expecting a penguin to do algebra. Like, penguins are great. They don't have to do algebra to be good penguins, Like,
in fact, once they start doing algebra, I'm out.
Yeah, no, we're fucked.
Yeah. Francis says via contact, I think Horizon broke me out of my enjoyment of open world collectathons, while Days Gone rekindled it. Probably the opposite of most people's feelings about those two prestige Sony exclusives. However, the consistent feeling of being underpowered and the sheer amount of materials and time spent running around was enough to make me hate my own strategy for open world games, where I try to overpower myself through grinding before tackling large chunks of the story at once. After getting the ancient armor and doing all the side quests, I gave up on hunting and just finished the story, dropping the game like a bad conversation right after. The DLC felt a bit more of the same, but featured a few more interesting set-piece fights and provided some genuinely more powerful weapons to run around the main game with. The best part of the DLC for me was the quip Aloy makes to Lance Reddick while passing by the story quest to enter the DLC area. It shows that the developers put a lot of thought into the DLC as part of the game's story flow and progression, but not so much to the amount of grind that was involved.
Yeah.
That is such an open world, like, hey, do the main quest actually for a while, is so hard as a bit of advice, but it's always good advice.
Yeah.
I have the same kind of metric where I want to do all the side stuff first just because it feels organized to me.
Yeah.
And it always sucks.
Yeah. Because like
I have
main
no
quests
idea how I'm
unlock
supposed
stuff.
to be doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it makes the main game less satisfying. Like open world games are kind of obnoxious because they give you so many ways to ruin the experience for yourself in the name of freedom.
Yeah.
You know, it's like half authored and half free in a way that doesn't work as well as it should.
Yeah. And so what's funny is like people, when I was listening to you, when I was reading along with that, I was thinking like, the way that I want to do it is to get overpowered and then do stretches of the main quest. To me, like what that sounded like was cramming for the test, you know,
Sure.
which is the thing that people do. But it's like how much of that is falling into old patterns because of a lack of, you know, a lack of imposed structure, or like an assumption that you're just naturally going to fall into the, you know, kind of like healthy rhythm of playing this, which is, you know, cherry picking what's close and, you know, following your nose and, you know, to what is going to be satisfying. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
It's a weird thing where like something I think about is the intersection of recreation and performance.
Yeah.
And how those two things are in conversation with each other in a way that provides a lot of like kind of harmful tension. You know, because a video game is something that is supposed to be recreation, but it's also something in which you can do well at. And there is a definitive success condition. So like when you do all the side stuff to become overpowered for the main game, you know, you mentioning, you know, comparing it to cramming for a test is really apt because it's part of like, I want to do good. You know, I want to succeed and perform well, when that impulse, at least for me, is very contrary to the impulses that provide me with enjoyment and fun. You know, and the best games manage to hide that conflict or work with it in a way a little bit more elegantly than most open world games do.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
at least for me.
It's complicated, and you know, I can't point at the studio that has solved it. You know.
Yeah. Unsolved problem so far.
Yeah. Is this me?
This is you.
Yeah, this will be me. Mr. Reciprocity writes, I don't know if I'm going to finish Horizon before I finish listening to the WAF on it. I absolutely adored the first third or so of it, exploring the gorgeous forests of Aloy's region, with their dynamic weather and enticing mysteries. But my attention waned pretty hard when that got traded out for a lovely but monochromatic desert, a frustrating to navigate city, and a whole new bland culture that I was supposed to care about. Perhaps not coincidentally, this was around the time that I really started straining against my inventory space, a constraint made worse by the fact that it is impossible to remember which robot parts will trade for what when you get back to the merchant. When the WAF dropped, I figured I'd go tie it up, but it turns out that one of the game's great strengths becomes a real hurdle in this situation. The fact that most of your power curve comes not from stats and gear, but from actually learning how to hunt the various robot dinosaurs. Turns out it doesn't matter how over-leveled you are if you can't remember which tender robot giblets are vulnerable to which kinds of attacks. I know I used to be able to take these things apart, but now I am just pissing them off. Thankfully, someone on Twitter suggested that I just turn it down to easy, and that seems to be working. Yet another argument for adjustable difficulty.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Currently, as we're talking, we're back in game difficulty discourse.
The cycle has come around again, baby.
Yeah.
Discourse, it's good. Woo. Yeah, obviously, just play the game, you know, just the WAF cliche bingo card. The alternative isn't you rising to the challenge and playing the game how it is. The alternative is you turning it off and playing a different video game.
Yep.
So you may as well get your money's worth and do it the way you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So good on ya.
Yep.
Yeah. Prescriptivism sucks.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, losing using your player knowledge and your avatar knowledge not being enough to get you back up sucks, and is a major reason why there is I hate when there's a disincentive to putting a game down and coming back. Yeah.
It's weird though, because the opposite also sucks, where like all of your your success is determined based on avatar strength.
Yeah.
And not player knowledge. Like, it can be really good and empowering to have the player knowledge be as important as it is.
Yeah.
In this, it just doesn't lend itself well to breaks.
Mm-hmm.
It might, like, something I think about, and this, if I wonder whether I would be happier, and I can't do it because of the show, but also it doesn't fly my instincts. But I wonder if I'd be happier if, like, when I put something down, I just left it down.
Yeah.
And I could like eliminate all of that guilt, and like, so I would never have this problem. If I play the first third of something and it doesn't hook me, like, Jesus, that's a lot of chance.
It had its
a
chance.
lot of rope.
Yeah.
That is a lot of rope that you've given something.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't work at that point, like, what am I really gaining by like pushing myself, forward? Like, I'm gaining because I'm playing it for work, but outside of that context, like, it just feels like self-punishment for no reason.
Yeah.
Putting the whole damn system on trial. Riley says via contact. The theme that stands out most for me in Horizon is atheism. I swear I'm not wearing a fedora, nor do I think the depiction of religion in the game is flawless. Human sacrifice being bad isn't exactly a nuanced or interesting take. I much prefer the stuff with Nora, how awful the matriarchs using their social power to shun people for the alleged good of the community is, or Aloy's frustration at being told the goddess is working through her, depriving her of her agency. I also like the actual values the game puts forward. That just because we don't understand something, like the robot dinosaurs, doesn't mean it cannot be understood. The knowledge, even difficult truths, is better than ignorance, and we become fuller people by interacting with other cultures. Also, that none of it is worth anything without caring and humanity, as seen in the final audio log from Elizabeth, or the obvious contrast between the compassion of Aloy and the condescending jerkishness of Silence. Giving Aloy the perspective they did really is what made the character, and by extension the game, work for me.
I like all that stuff too. I wish it was more centered, you leave the you leave the Nora lands and you learn the truth of most of the mysteries behind why, behind the stuff that they worship, and you come back to it and it doesn't necessarily make any kind of difference, really. Like, those themes are not explored. Really, it's not resolved. It is kind of glossed over or glanced past, or they breeze right past that to get to a climax because that's kind of what the game is interested in reaching towards, right?
Yeah, agreed. I also like those themes. I just didn't, any kind of work this big is not going to have focus.
Yeah,
ironically enough, to really work on that. So,
Tom the Optimist writes in saying, Horizon Zero Dawn was something I loved, but I didn't have the right way to describe it until Gary described The Last of Us. It's my popcorn blockbuster game. Lots of fun, kind of dumb, but compared to a lot of still good games, it's a breath of fresh air. It also made me hate AAA games. Maybe I'm sounding bitter, but a fun popcorn action adventure that's a new IP with robots was just what I needed when it came out. It still is. I've played through it multiple times, the way someone might rewatch something like rewatch something with a superhero. There are so many AAA franchises that are just doing the requisite motions, and honestly, a nice game to play. God, I can't remember when before I had this kind of feeling about another open world video game. I was spoiled when Spider-Man came out and gave me that same sort of feeling, but that was still a major IP adaptation. It makes me disappointed in the industry that a bar this low made me feel happy. Anyways, I want a Lego Thunderjaw.
I hope you get it.
Yeah.
You want to build one, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I bet you there's all the parts for that. That would be a fun project.
You don't have to wait for permission.
No, we give you permission.
Yeah.
I get all of that. To me, the IP-ness of Spider-Man was not only additive, but at the very least was not remotely subtractive.
Eye penis.
Yeah, the penis. Yeah, eye penis.
Yeah.
New from Cinco. But that was, even if it wasn't additive to me, it was certainly wasn't subtractive. Like, I think that game is way more fun.
Yeah.
In the hands. And if I wanted to play a very long game over and over for fun, as opposed to like a roguelike thing, which is just, how I'm built, I would have done Spider-Man. Like, I am staring down the barrel of Miles Morales, which I have, and very tempted to do another Spider-Man playthrough first.
Yeah.
Just to hang out in that world and reacquaint myself with web slinging.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
Slinging webs.
Because
good.
It's a good Spider-Man story. Like,
yeah. Getting around is fun. That is a weird open world secret. Make getting around fun.
Yeah. Do it.
Joy says via contact, I've never been very much of a gamer, and as my life got busier in college, I just let video games slide in priority. At least a decade passed where I barely touched them. Somehow, Horizon Zero Dawn drew me in enough that I broke the lapse and actually bought it in an old PS4, and I genuinely love it. I had no idea what I was doing on my first playthrough. Bless easy mode for letting a novice like me survive getting caught on a little island by snapmaws, or that run-in with the corrupted rockbreakers, or that first encounter with a stormbird, and feel like I'd come out on top of a hard fight. Really enjoyed the story, the characters, and the sense of this is a living world that hasn't just been waiting for Aloy to arrive for things to start happening. But I'm really commenting to say that this game is what finally tipped me over the edge into admitting I have depression and seeking help. Early on in the game, there's a recording of a dead man where he describes his colleagues lining up like cattle in a slaughterhouse to take meds, smiling at each other like being alive was a pain to be eased. I was like, these people have been living in an apocalypse bunker for years, knowing despair untold. I probably shouldn't find this so relatable. And I did get help, and I'll always have a soft spot now. It's also just in general got such a combination of elaborately well described despair and effort, and much less explicitly stated beauty and hope, that's hard not to apply to the world we live in. Maybe not everything can be saved. Maybe the world that goes on will lack something, many things, that were wonderful about the world that was. But there is still so much good and beauty that it is worth fighting for. Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations on taking that step. I hope that your treatment since you started is going well.
Yeah.
Yep.
No. And, in general, like I did not have the emotional feeling from this, but I would never take that away from you. Like that justifies the game in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like you got a lot out of it. A lot of the stuff that you got from this, I got from Outer Wilds, just the intrinsic beauty worth fighting for, even if you're not going to be there to see it, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to Doug. Doug, who produced that episode. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
First, thank you, as always, for an exceptional episode. I push for this game because I tend to dislike open world games, but the cool things about this one stuck with me. I think the drawbacks that you cited are valid, but I tend to discount those as the price of admission for the genre rather than this particular game. I've thought on this for a while and tried to come up with a unified theory of AAA open world games, and here's what I've come up with. The formula is the density times ease of traversal times the motivation to explore divided by total square miles of the map. Generally, the bigger the map, the harder it is to make the other factors balance out appropriately. I know this needs polish, but I think it explains why I like Horizon Zero Dawn perhaps more than other similar games. The core gameplay, killing robots and getting more backstory, was great and motivated further exploration. Travel was relatively easy, so that even though the map is large, getting anywhere did not take too long. And more importantly, I felt I had good control over how little or how much I was interrupted along the way. Activities such as climbing tall necks, gathering collectibles, clearing bandit camps, etc. never were out their welcome for me, because Horizon Zero Dawn would give you, say, 10 of those things, whereas a modern Assassin's Creed would give you hundreds of them. That's not to say the game is perfect, but I found that to the degree it had market-dominated AAA stuff, it was handled deftly enough so as not to weigh down the core of what Horizon Zero Dawn does best. Thanks again for your excellent coverage. P.S. You didn't mention this on the cast, but I wanted to call out the game's score as generally excellent and an interesting combination of old instrumentation and electronic sounds as befits the setting.
I think you did talk about the score, Cole.
I did, yeah. I like it. I liked
Checkmate, Doug.
Proved you wrong. I enjoyed how it didn't lean into stereotypically like tribal sounds while still using folk instruments and stuff. It was really neat. Yeah.
So, this is I'm not 100% not saying this to pick on Doug because I like Doug, but I do find it like whenever I read defense of one of these games, or like a lot of different genres, a lot of times they're framed in mitigating factors that make the bad things not as bad. You know, and it's just like that is a very limited currency for me.
Yeah.
You know, I understand that and like I would agree that Horizon Zero Dawn does not step on its dick as much as like, you know, Far Cry 4 does in terms of checklist nightmares and how boring it is to traverse and stuff like that. Things like that. But like, it's always interesting to me when it's like the traversal is relatively painless. You know, that you have to do some tedious things, but you don't have to do that many of them. You know, it always reminds me of arguments for Bravely Default.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, you still have to do a billion battles and the end of the game is you doing the same boss fights over and over and over, but you can kind of fast forward through them.
Yeah.
Or like, God, what is that? There's an iOS JRPG that came out recently where
Fantasia,
the big innovation,
something like that.
Yeah, like the innovation is you do all of the random battles at once.
Yep.
Like you just save them, you bank them for later to just do them all at once. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand that as an improvement at all. We all played that with Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, so there's something to like a defense of a game where it just says like, hey, the bad stuff could be worse. That I always kind of like rankle at a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and again, nothing personal to Doug. It's just one of those things that like is a hazard of our line of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I don't know that I have anything to add on top of that. It's just it's just one of those things where, you know, if the conversation comes down to what can you ignore about it, that ends up being fraught because that is intensely personal as well. And like, you know, kind of by extension on that, there are just kind of things that, you know, because we have opted into this endeavor and, you know, an endeavor of criticism, it's like, oh, I actually can't ignore the way that makes me feel. Like, you know, because it's there and I have to respond to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to play a video game with the idea of what things are annoying about it can I ignore? You know, like that feels like giving up too much ground going into it. Like even outside of the job, like one of the things about Horizon, right? Like even if I was playing that outside of for the podcast, like, yes, the crafting stuff is like, and the economy is relatively ignorable. The game doesn't want you to ignore it though.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I can put in the mental overhead to just treat that like it's not a thing. The game is still constantly trying to draw my attention to it with like pop-ups and loot and the way it ties into the reward loop of things. Like it does not want me to ignore it. And having that kind of struggle, like, I don't know if this is just a me thing and other people are able to put their, you know, ignore-cules on autopilot. I suspect that's what it is. You know, it is that it's me. Like I just have a hard time ignoring things that are there.
Yeah.
And other people, you know, this doesn't look like anything to me. Like I don't, you know, I just didn't think about it.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't, it's very hard for me to think about media that way.
Well, and you know, and like we're trying to look for a way to kind of, you know, occupy a space and talk about things. And, you know, you can look at it and say, oh, it's just a you thing. Like, no, just like it comes down to, it varies by the individual, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, could get kind of, you know, a matter of taste. You know, do you have this ability or not? You know, I'm not making that like a standard, you know, appeal to the soup of subjectivity. It's just, you know, people have different, you know, we look at stuff through different eyes.
Yeah. There's something that the show is like 100% taught me in terms of like media consumption is there is no counter, and it's okay that there is no counter for that. Just didn't bother me. You know, like that is a conversation ender and a justified conversation ender. It doesn't have to be, but you can't argue a negative. Like somebody could say, you know, and that's what sometimes the like, oh, it's not that bad, always feel like arguing a negative. to me, whereas it's just like, oh, it just didn't bother me. Like I hear the argument why this bothered you. Like that, there's your argument. That's good. Like I don't think everything is just subjective and there's no point in talking about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but if it's just like, yeah, I just didn't have that effect on me. I didn't have that feeling from it.
It's kind of akin to like, oh, you had a bad experience with this game because you had a bug that, you know, nuked your 10-hour save and you didn't want to start it again. I can't actually counter that because that's always going to be part of your experience with it, you know?
Yeah. To me, and for my place of speaking on this game, that has no impact on the art, like whatsoever. It literally can't. And also it wouldn't, even if, you know, me philosophically, but it's not something I could argue somebody out of.
Right.
You know? So. Moving on to Stanley Parable responses. Cinderelf says via contact. I remember when playing this game years ago that I got some very heavy Douglas Adams vibes from the comedy. Did a quick Google search before setting this in, and I'm at least not the only one who feels this way. I'm not sure whether the feeling comes from the actual writing or from the similarities of the voice performance of the narrator and the Hitchhiker's Guide from the various adaptations. Either way, I love it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really fair comparison, and it's hard to say, but I think if you talk to Davey Reed, he would probably cite that as an inspiration. You know, whether or not that is more so than any other nerd who likes funny and absurd stuff, you know, who would have been informed by being, you know, consuming that at a young age. It kind of seems like a common reference point in general. But yeah, yes. I think that the fact that you have the stately British voice that is kind of expressing through absurdity kind of a wide variety of emotional valences, let's say, you know, I would say, yeah, that's a real Hitchhiker's Douglas Adams kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that famous book, The Hitchhiker's Douglas Adams.
Yeah.
Written by Guide.
France writes via contact. I still remember seeing the trailer for the Stanley Parable for the first time. The famous moment where the narrator says, Stanley went left, and the player stopping in the middle of the room, two options clearly visible. At that moment, my brain broke. Or maybe a switch was flipped. I just stared at the screen, flabbergasted, my mind reeling with paradoxes and possibilities. It was that exact moment I decided to get into making games, an important turning point in my life. It hasn't allowed me to quit my day job, but this creative outlet has made me happier, more creative, and a more productive person. As for the game itself, I loved it. It exceeded all of my expectations, and I will be forever grateful for the way that it changed my life.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Oh, that's a nice story. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Keep on keeping on. Ben says via contact. I was shown the Stanley Parable by a friend back in high school. I was intrigued, but never ended up getting the game myself. Listened to your episode on it while sitting at my job, staring at a screen and pressing buttons. It just felt appropriate. I already knew the ins and outs of the game from watching it, but you guys inspired me to share it. So that night, I bought the game and dragged the computer out to the living room to have my wife give it a try. She had no idea what to expect, but was hooked immediately. We played the entire game in one night and had a blast. It was a lovely little date night. Thanks for reminding me to give this awesome game a chance. You're welcome.
That's
also
a good idea.
Great story.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Sweet. To like, okay, so this is kind of spoiled for me. Can I find somebody who is, you know, is unspoiled and borrow their eyes for this and kind of play it alongside them? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
That's a great feeling. Well done.
And Connor writes, the Stanley Parable is always the first game I break out when trying to show non-gamer friends, family, or significant others why I'm so interested in the hobby. Not only does it show that video game writing can be clever and funny, but it also shows how much the medium benefits from being interactive. I was just recently showing the Stanley Parable to my girlfriend. The only primer that I made was that she would be able to make all the decisions while we play. The idea clicked for her immediately once we were confronted with the first decision. Follow the directions and go through the door to the left, or forge our own path through the door on the right. Sprinting through the door on the right was the first of many run-throughs for that night, which ended with her asking me to show her other games like the Stanley Parable. I'm excited to relive the emotional roller coaster of the beginner's guide with her next.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Look forward to that. I would, if I were you, I would set some expectations.
Yeah.
That it's not going to be a laugh a minute.
Yeah. It's more,
because it won't.
It's more an emotionally devastating story about failing to connect with somebody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is good. So it's a question that comes up every once in a while, like, oh, what game would you introduce, show to somebody who is, never played a game before, or trying to get them into something a little bit more complicated than just like a 2D side scroller or whatever. The answer is always Portal, but I think Stanley Parable might actually be. I think that Connor is onto something, because even though Portal, there's like not a lot of pressure to it, you are still kind of like trying to work stuff out. It requires a lot of input for a certain amount of output. I think that Stanley Parable might actually be more impressive for less input.
Well, one of the things I think that this idea either came up on the Slack or we talked about it, but memories aren't a thing. But one of the things is that, like, I think that a lot of the cleverness of Stanley Parable is in conversation with games.
Yeah.
So it's like, it is something that somebody could enjoy, and it has some things to say about narratives in general, but I don't think it'll have quite the same impact if you're not familiar with the trope of, like, in this video game, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff would just straight up not make a lot of sense. But that's true of Portal as well, which also is like deconstructive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Moving on to heat signature responses. Kenya says via contact, heat signature is my favorite game about messing up really badly, then trying to fix my mistakes through increasingly convoluted measures. Best example. I'm trying to get through a glitcher ship to do an assassination. I'm about halfway to my target when I accidentally open a door and get spotted. I throw myself out of a window because I don't have any great alternatives, but not in time to stop the alarm. So now the ship is crawling with contractors. I try a few more times, but each time I have to run away because there are just too many contractors. Suddenly I have a great idea. I wait for one of the predators to get close-ish to my pod, pop out, stick them with a remote grenade. Since the guards wander the entire ship, I figure I'll just wait for them to get close to my target and then blow up the grenade. I wait for what feels like 10 minutes for the random pattern to finally work out in my favor, go to the pause menu. Instead of detonating the grenade, I accidentally teleport it back to me. Whoops. I try again, and this time I do detonate the grenade, but the predator wasn't close enough to the target, so it simply sets off another alarm. So I say screw it and just go in guns blazing, blowing up parts of the ship with breach grenades, using my pod to take shortcuts from the newly created holes, and just generally causing havoc. I eventually get to my target, and he shoots me in the face because I suck at this game. Also, because I'd lost so much blood previously, I die instantaneously when it throws me out of an airlock. Wonderful game. Would recommend to literally anyone. Very good story.
I love I love heat signature. Like stories like that are so fun because just it's endemic to every run, or most of them anyway, where it's like, oh, this is just a rolling garbage fire, like car crash, that just keeps on going. Like it never loses momentum. It just blows up and rolls.
Yep. Super fun. Yeah. Good game for war stories.
Love it. Man, I play heat signature. We only got one response about it, and that's fine. But that is leading me to believe that not a lot of people played it. Play heat signature. It's really good.
Definitely the most obscure thing we did this month.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Prey responses. So Daniela writes in via contact saying, the glue gun, despite being a painful backronym, is probably my favorite signature weapon of any game, simply because it feels like it has a use no matter how you plan on playing the game. In combat, raising an enemy to avoid being swarmed is incredibly useful, although it can be equally helpful if you just plan on running away. And then, of course, there is the navigation aspect that feels like the developers took climbing to the top of a building on trigger bombs from Deus Ex and turned that into an intended feature. That is a good antecedent to the glue gun, actually.
Yeah, I also got lamb climbing vibes from that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I agreed. Jack, via contact, who is the sponsor of the episode. Hey, Jack, friend of the network. Thanks for the great episode, gents. Prey really made huge inroads for me into the 0451 genre. I think the most lasting lesson was just to express myself in whatever way got the job done. Take Dishonored. I've always been a treat boy, and I always fell off that game whenever I stopped being able to smoothly do a completely non-violent run. Prey really challenged me to get over my own hang-up about doing things perfectly, and has certainly played in such a way that expressive play was encouraged. Sure, it doesn't have Blink, but I'll treasure gluing myself inside a room to hide from the phantoms forever. And it's certainly a good part of the reason I just spent a pittance to play Deus Ex for the very first time in 2021. Congrats. That's going to be fun for you.
It will. it's one of those things. Deus Ex is one of those ones. There are any number of games like this where it's like, man, to see that through fresh eyes again.
Yeah. Like a first Dark Souls experience.
Yep. So, Mass Effect 2, something like that.
Yeah. So thank you again, Jack.
Yeah. Douglas writes via contact, this was one of my favorite games of 2017 as well. And wouldn't you know it, it was also one of the, if not the first immersive sims that I played. I don't play games on computers, so I didn't even really know much about the genre beforehand. Having gone back and played a bunch since, it's clear that I started with one of the best. The opening is one of the best in video games, and it got me thinking of some other best openings in games, and thought maybe you guys could chat about that if it strikes your fancy. Modern games have an edge due to better tech, but both Final Fantasy VI and VII, particularly the former, were some great examples from the 90s too.
Yeah. Those are both great examples. 4 as well has a really good intro.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 4. And Final Fantasy V's intro is just dog shit.
Yeah.
So they just absolutely dumb shit. Yeah. They really fucked up on that one. Mm-hmm. But 4 and 6 are great.
Yeah. It's tough because those are so good that it's hard for me to think of other good openings. I assembled these responses so long ago that any thoughts I had back then are gone.
It's difficult because games tended not to be as cinematic back then.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to reach into that for that. Like Another World.
Yep.
That intro is incredible.
Yeah.
Just really, really good. And like the intro to Super Mario World is incredible, but it's a gameplay intro.
Yeah.
Like it's masterwork shit, but it's not mind blowing.
I was hitting something from around that same era, but Mega Man X does a good job of being like that is cinematic and good too, but also it's a really good gameplay one as well. Mm-hmm. You're fighting big enemies in a higher concentration than you do in the rest of the game at the beginning of Mega Man X. And then it ends with the hopeless boss fight, and then you're outclassed by Zero, and it sets up kind of the broader story, gets you to hate Vile. It's good. Like Mega Man X.
It's super good.
Yeah.
Because of GDQ, I just recently watched somebody do a really good speed run of the second X-Men game for Genesis.
Oh yeah.
And I forgot how that has that really good intro where you just start like with a level with a random X-Men and you don't get the title screen until you beat that level.
Oh, nice.
As soon as you turn on the system, it does that. Like those games are cool. They were not phoned in. Mm-hmm. Pretty impressive shit.
Is that the one where it says like, hey, reset the danger room, and you have to like...
That's the first one.
That's
X-Men 1 for Genesis, which is like a horrible idea, but at least, again, not phoning it in for like a licensed platformer.
Yeah.
Dan says via contact, in case it wasn't talked about in the main episode, I'd like to just take a moment to mention how much I enjoyed the game's crafting and how it allowed for player-controlled power progression. It's not something you see often in modern games, reminding me of how older RPGs would give you more free reign in how you play in their systems, breaking balance whenever the player wants to. I found joy in hurling my recycler charges into rooms, sweeping up all the soon-to-be neuromod treasures left in the wake, and then buffing myself as I saw fit. I'm also the type who spends way too long looking in every corner for lore or resources and felt rewarded constantly. Even a lowly trash can would have scraps that would fuel the next weapon upgrade, neuromod, or anything else I wanted. Because of all of this, nothing ever felt too good to use. I found myself experimenting with different items and tactics far more often than I would in other games.
Yeah.
We did talk about that quite a bit, and I 100% agree. Like, it is the kind of game where it is difficult and you have a sense of privation, but then once you engage with it the way it wants you to in terms of exploring, you're incredibly well resourced.
Yeah. And
that I love that combination.
Yeah. And adding so much more intrinsic reward for trash can scrounging is a good is a good move. Is having most everything in the environment potentially be a resource for you to use, Yeah. Yeah. I'm just gonna stack all these chairs in the middle of the room and set off one of these charges, baby. Yeah.
Baby.
Dan writes, oh, you already did that. Tom writes via contact, I will precursor my impending negativity by saying how much I absolutely love and adore the Dishonored games and the unique experience they provide. Prey was definitely unique, but I have nothing close to adoration for the game. I'll admit, this is most likely one of those it's not you, it's me type situations, but I found this game really hard to enjoy. I loved some of the mechanics and weapons, big props to the glue gun and the recycling grenade in particular, but overall, something was missing for me, or maybe it was over my head. Even on easy, I felt like I was constantly on my back foot with ammo and resources. I found the objectives really hard to find or work out what they were, so eventually I resorted to a walkthrough for everything. Even then, I was constantly frustrated. It's a very ambitious game, and maybe even too ambitious for its own good. But I feel like I'm in the minority. I put it down close to the last mission and never looked back. That said, I'm super excited to hear you guys talk about it, and you're one of the only podcasts where I will listen to discuss a game that I haven't played or finished. Keep up the great work, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah. See response to the last question, I guess. I thought this game was really hard and you were constantly in the back foot, and I think that it is rigorous, but I think it is in service of getting you to explore and resource yourself, more than you might, and use like your environment. Like that first, when you first go into the atrium, or not the atrium, the lobby in the first time and are confronted with a phantom, like that's really hard. And the game wants you to be like, hey, I can move these turrets around and create like a choke point to lead them into. Yeah. And I'm not saying that it'd be like, no, Smarty Boy Gary like figured it out and Tom didn't. Like, it just like what strings you see are entirely subjective, and just, there are tons of games I'll play where I'm like, I just don't fucking get what it wants me to do.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Just in not seeing what it wants you to do. Not being able to kind of grok the lines that it is expecting you to follow. You're not alone in that experience with Prey, Tom.
Tons of cranky people in our Slack.
Yeah.
Bad mouthing Prey, and then it's been on this weird cycle where somebody will come and be like, Prey's fucking awesome, and then it just the cycle starts again of the people just saying it didn't work for me, it's bad, in response. But in spite of that, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, join our Slack, because it's not actually as annoying as I just made it sound. Promise.
Oh man.
Gordon says via contact, although I ended it as an unstoppable murder machine that effortlessly clubbed nightmares like a baby seal, the early stages of Prey were terrifying survival horror for me. I don't know if I missed an ammo cache or just took a few more hours to get into the rhythm, but the phantoms absolutely kicked my ass on the way to and from engineering. Imagine my horror on my return to find the previously clear room in the central atrium now had a phantom just chilling in it. I was ammoless, low on health, and it was standing between me and my safe zone. Crouching stealthily, I was able to sneak out of the windows at the back of the room, jump onto the hanging sculptures that decorate the ceiling, hop along these ill-considered boondoggles as I will make my way around the creature and get to the entrance of the safe room. I took a flying leap and sacrificed my knees, but survived to crawl to the friendly turrets in safety. The game eventually got too easy for this kind of gameplay to make sense, but it stood out as an incredible piece of procedural gameplay, and I'll be chasing that high for all arcane games in the future. Yeah, great story. I love that little ledge and those little sculptures that you can climb on.
Oh yeah, no, the consistent shortcuts for me throughout the game, running on top of those lights. Yeah,
extremely good.
And we talked about it in the episode, but that early survival horror area, I think that feels intentional, at least up until you get the shotgun. Like the shotgun is the first real empowering thing you get.
100%.
Yeah, unless you work your way toward some badass powers like sequence breaking it or what have you.
Yeah.
Finally here, Robert says via contact, a cohesive video game ending is hard to find, and I don't envy anyone who is struggling to tie everything together in a neat bow. Prey's ending is the type of conclusion I have distaste for, but in the end, it worked for me. I played Morgan as an empathetic humanist through and through, but one who was disgusted by her brother's schemes. When the credits rolled and it was revealed that we were actually a Typhon who'd been matrixed by Alex, I stuck that tentacle into his gut with no hesitation. He'd made a big enough mess already. I wasn't confident that he would be able to fix things, and I was tired of seeing him escape justice. He can't keep getting away with it. That's me adding it. Yeah. I hate it was all a dream or it was all a simulation endings without exception. They're hacky, lacking in confidence, and always unsatisfying. But the fact that Prey actually gives you the option to say, nah, fuck this, left me feeling pretty jolly as I close things out. Sure, it has a base revenge fantasy that may have doomed... Sure, it was a base revenge fantasy that may have doomed humanity forever, but damn if it didn't feel right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, good little story.
Yeah.
Like, he cannot keep getting away with this.
He can't.
You know, and he shan't.
Mm-hmm.
Bad for him. Thanks everybody for writing in. If you have things to say about next month's games, which are Sam & Max Save the World, Paradise Killer, or Chrono Trigger, hit us up by the 15th of August at Duckfeed.tv/contact.
If you have thoughts about multiple games, please separate them into multiple responses. That does help us out a good deal.
Mm-hmm. And we are ready to announce September's games.
Yeah.
Which one of which we've already announced. Because I spoiled it, because I don't give a dick. I don't give a shit.
Do not give an S about the whole Koi Boy thing anymore. Yeah, we're going to be opening up with Katana Zero.
Yeah. Which a patron pick. I'm looking forward to playing that. Mm-hmm. Did not expect this to be not only the year of roguelikes, but the year of Hotline Miami likes.
Yep.
But I'm here for it.
Yep.
After that, we're doing a Cole vanity pick.
Mm-hmm.
Here. Sonic 2.
Yeah, we're doing it. We've not really covered a Sonic game since, on this show, since we did Sonic 3. I like Sonic 2, and this has been a year that has leaned really heavily on more recent stuff, and I want to talk about Sonic 2. We can go back, we can talk about something older. We can talk about Sonic 2 now.
Yeah, we're finally back, baby. After that, we're doing a game called Singularity, which I am not familiar with, but I'm super excited to check out. A shooter with some time travel stuff, is my understanding, but I will be learning along with everyone.
Yeah, it's from that kind of era of shooters. It was like the late aughts, like post BioShock, but like I think pre the codification of everything. It's weird, and I had always heard that this is better than it looked. Not to like pre-damn it by faint praise, but I'm happy to hear that I think that it'll bear analysis based on what
I'm
I
excited to talk about it. I love it when we talk about stuff that just like but I've never heard anyone talk about.
Yeah.
So I think that's really fun. And then finally the premium episode for that, which I could not be more excited about. It's another Jack joint. Jack, friend of the show, has sponsored an episode on Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah. That's going to be, I'm daunted. That's going to be something that is more in line with the Gungeon episode, where Gary's going to be the experienced hand, and I'm going to just try not to fuck up too bad.
You will be fine.
Okay.
They added in that Radiant mode, and it you can play it like a game.
Okay, good.
Where it does not require a lot of grinding, and you can get a good fight all the bosses and get a good idea of all the classes.
Cool.
There. I have a million pro tips for anybody who's playing that. I did a long Let's Play series on it, which I explained that the game is very near and dear to my heart. I will provide those pro tips to you and for anyone else who wants them.
Yeah.
That's not true. You don't get to just at me for pro tips, but you can find places where I put pro tips in the past.
Yeah.
But it's
there'll be a game coming up where the tables are turned a little bit later.
100%.
So.
Like, if you're looking forward to me, like, being the person who put 20 hours into something that Cole's put unconscionable numbers into, hundreds and hundreds, it's coming. So just look forward to that.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate you. If you would like to support us, you can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. That's how you sponsor episodes. It's also how you get to give us prompts and questions for the Q&A portion of this. It's also where you put the wrap up when we do the kind of roundup episodes of prompts and questions we didn't get to. So there's lots of episodes of shows that you have not heard yet if you are not a patron.
Yeah. So go ahead and do that. We really appreciate everybody who has done that so far. Ratings, reviews, telling your friends, coming back next week. All of those are good things. I don't talk about this very much, but I am going to mention it here. If you are looking for a streamer to watch, I stream on a pretty regular basis on Friday and Saturday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern. I stream horror games, and I am feeling out times to do like daytime streams during the week. Just kind of doing a smattering of whatever. Been digging some Power Watch Simulator, but that is at twitch.tv/Duckfeed.tv is the channel there if you want to subscribe to that or follow that and get notifications and stuff.
Do you mind if I do a quick plug real quick?
Go.
Cool. If you're looking for a streamer to watch, try Markiplier. He's really good. I don't actually know who that is, and for all I know, he's a sex pest. I just wanted to do some counter programming.
Yeah,
you should watch Cole. I'm just joking.
And I'm happy that we're getting out of here before the guppy energy takes hold.
It's coming, baby. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And I'm hungry, and it's only a mere minutes away from hangry. So it's coming, baby. I couldn't drink coffee this morning because my stomach was upset because of worry.
Yeah.
So it's
love
it's
that.
Time to get the hell out of here.
Love that when I'm too sick to drink coffee, and then not drinking coffee makes me feel more sick. And then when I get more sick, I get more worried, which makes me more sick.
Yeah. It's it's a cycle.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.